जय श्री राधे। शिवा लबादीश की जय हो, श्री गोसाई जी की जय हो, और सब वैष्णव को जय श्री कृष्ण। Varta 200 and day 205. The story of a mother and her highway robber son, Bhav Prakash. This mother and her son are devotees of Tamasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, they are part of the Pulindi group of gopis. The mother's Leela name is Maruvi and the son is Garuvi. They manifest from Nritya Kala and are thus personifications of her divine loving sentiment. Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji had travelled from Gokul to have the holy site of Sri Ranchorlalji. On the way was the village of Godwar, and Sri Gosaiji set up camp there. He cooked and made offerings to Sri Thakurji. Then he partook of the Mahaprasad. He slept the night at that place. In the morning, after performing his daily ablutions and his prayers, he sat down to read text and chant the Lord's name. The mother caught sight of him at this time. She straightway decided that it would be most beneficial for her to take refuge in him in order to perfect her life. She supplicated, "O Maharaj, please initiate me with the Lord's name." Sri Gosaiji asked her to return to him after having bathed. She did so and again requested him to fulfill her life by granting her initiation with the Lord's name. He agreed, and afterwards she made a donation to him according to her means. This lady's son was the chief of a gang of thieves. He would ambush travellers on the road and steal all they had. He also caught sight of Sri Gosaiji. At that very moment he saw Sri Gosaiji his mind and heart were purified. He approached Sri Gosaiji and said, "Please initiate me with the Lord's name and make me into a disciple." Sri Gosaiji said, "You are a highway robber, and therefore I cannot and I will not initiate you." The son piped up, standing with folded hands, "O Maharaj, from this day I shall never rob again, and I shall survive by farming or working for someone. I shall not rob again." Sri Gosaiji was pleased with him. He said, "From now on, you must never do such things." He then graced the son by initiating him with the Lord's name and made him his disciple. Seeing this, the whole village followed suit and all became disciples. They never ever robbed again, and they all started farming to survive. When they cooked at home, they would always mix Srinathji's and Sri Gosaiji's charanamrit into the food before they consumed it. Sri Gosaiji then continued his journey to Dwarkaji. He returned from there to Gokul after some time. Bhav Prakash. The moral of this story is that a Vaishnava should not collect money through dishonest or harmful means. The Lord is pleased when they survive through farming, working for someone, or business. They should never do any kind of work which gives even the slightest trouble to another. Thus concludes Varta 200, the story of the mother and her highway robber, who were the recipients of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and accomplished Vaishnavas. There is no end to their tale. Varta 201, the story of Uttam Das Kshatriya from Gujarat, Bhav Prakash. This is a devotee of Sattvic disposition. In the eternal Leela, his name is Sri Rangi, who manifests from Nritya Kala and is thus a personification of her divine loving sentiment. Part 1. Once Sri Gosaiji had come to Gujarat for the holy site of Sri Ranchorlalji. Uttam Das caught sight of him and was filled with the desire to become his disciple. Uttam Das supplicated Sri Gosaiji to accept him into his shelter. He said, "I have been wandering around uselessly for many years." Sri Gosaiji told him to come back after bathing. Uttam Das came back in the upper state of purity, and Sri Gosaiji initiated him with the Lord's name. The next day he granted him the Brahma Sambandh initiation. Uttam Das offered him the best donation that he could afford, and then Sri Gosaiji set off for the holy site of Sri Ranchorlalji. He remained there for some time before returning to Gokul, where he engaged in the Seva and adornment of Sri Navani Priyaji. Uttam Das had stayed in his own village. There, one day, some time later, arrived a cloth merchant who had one particularly beautiful roll of embroidered cloth with him. Uttam Das thought it would be very nice present for Sri Gosaiji. He purchased it and then set off for Gokul to see Sri Gosaiji. It took him some days to reach there, and when he arrived it was time for the lunchtime Rajbhog Aarti of Sri Navani Priyaji. When Sri Gosaiji had completed the Lord's Seva, he came to sit in his bertak. Uttam Das prostrated before him and presented him with a roll of cloth. Sri Gosaiji liked it very much and said, "This cloth is worthy of being offered to Srinathji." The next day he set off for Natadwara and offered the cloth to Srinathji. All the gathered Vaishnavas then had the holy site of Sri Govardhanaji, and when he did so, Uttam Shlok Das was extremely happy. He considered his birth to be worthwhile. Uttam Das stayed in Srinathji Dwar and daily had the Lord's sight for quite some time. Sri Gosaiji then left to return to Gokul, and Uttam Das went with him. There he had the holy site of Sri Navani Priyaji and the 7 Swarupas. In this way he remained in Gokul for quite a few days. He then asked Sri Gosaji's permission to go on a tour of Vraja, and he agreed. Uttam Das prostrated Sri Gosaji before setting off, and it took him many days to complete the Vraja Yatra and return to Gokul. He bowed to Sri Gosaji, who asked, "Have you completed your Vraja tour?" Uttam Das replied, "Yes, indeed. I have had a great yatra with your grace." Uttam Das remained in Gokul for a while, having the holy sight of Sri Navneet Priji and the seven Swarupas. He then took leave of Sri Gosaji and set off on the journey home. When he was at home, he had the divine experience of Srinath Jidwar. Bhav Prakash. This story teaches us to always offer only the most excellent things to Sri Thakurji. This is the duty of his servant. Thus concludes Varta 201, the story of Uttam Das, who received Sri Gosaji's great grace and was an accomplished Vaishnava. There is no end to his tale. Continuing to Varta 202, the story of one moneylender's son, a court officer's daughter, and a merchant's son, Bhav Prakash. These three are devotees of a Rajasi disposition. In the eternal Leela, their names are Rama, moneylender's son, or Ram, the moneylender's son, Shyam, the officer's daughter, so Shyama, and Kam, merchant's son, so Ram, Shyam, and Kam. They all manifest from Krishnavati and are thus personifications of her divine loving sentiment. Part 1. They were all born in the same village in Gujarat. They all used to go to study with one Pandit and became very close friends. The moneylender was a disciple of Sri Gosaji. Once when Sri Gosaji passed through that village, he stayed at the moneylender's home. One day it was Sri Gosaji's birthday. For his birthday celebration, Sri Gosaji's feet were bathed in saffron water. This Markandeya Puja was performed, and the Vaishnavas were singing congratulatory kirtans for him. The officer's daughter and the merchant's son came there together to Sri Gosaji, and he initiated many of the tending Vaishnavas' children with the Lord's name, including these three. All of them partook of Mahaprasad. Sri Gosaji remained there for several more days to initiate many more souls, and he then set off for Gokul. We will pause the recitation for today. आज के आनंद की जय हो, सब वैष्णवों को जय श्री कृष्ण, सादर सदैन्य सानंद और सप्रेम जय श्री कृष्ण, जय जय श्री राधे, जय श्री राधे।